Guest artist Micah Hendler is with us now for the fourth of these 5 special Shabbatot. It's such a blessing to be able to be together in person here. We're doing so with great attention to safety precautions, with gratitude to our wonderful Jeff Gruber and his assistant Daniel from Blue House Productions. So with all of that, a deep breath and Shabbat Shalom. Join us on page 141 in your Siddur. Ma tovu halecha, o halecha Yaakov. Ma tovu halecha, o halecha Yaakov. Mishkenotecha, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Mishkenotecha, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu halecha, o halecha Yaakov. Ma tovu halecha, o halecha Yaakov. Mishkenotecha, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Mishkenotecha, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. V'ani tefilati lecha Adonai et ratzon, Elohim berov chasdecha, aneni be'emet yishecha. We'll continue with the morning blessings, beginning on page 151, with the kavanah to turn to one another in kindness and in love. Page 151, and it's our custom to rise as we're able.
Yeshem Yachud Kodsha V'Rachuhu U'Shchinati Neinu Muchan Mizuman Lekabe Alai Mitzvat Hashem V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha U'bizchut ze'eftach pi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim Hamavir Shena me'enayot u'ma me'afapai.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim Hanoten l'stakhrivin halavchin ben yom u'ben laila.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim Oka haaretz al hamayim.
Amen.
Page won't turn. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim pokeach ivrim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim malbish arumim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim matir asurim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim zokef kefufim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim hamechin mitzadei gaber.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim shasa lekol tzakim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim ozer Yisrael b'gvura.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim oter Yisrael b'tifara.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim shasani b'tzalmo.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim shasani bat horim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim shasani Yisrael.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olamim hanoten leYaef koach.
Amen. Let's continue together, page 165. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorai
אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורה היא. אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורה היא. אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורה היא. אתה בראת יצרת, אתה נפחת בי, ואתה משמרה בקרבי, ואתה תילה ממני לחיי עולם. Breathing deeply, כל זמן שהנשמה בקרבי, מודעני לפניך, אדוני אלוהי ואלוהי אבותיי ואמותיי, ריבון כל המעשים. אדון כל הנשמות, ברוך אתה אדוני, אשר בידו נפש כל חי, ורוח כל בשר. We can be seated and let's continue together. Following the Hebrew on page 177. But using this English interpretation, which we've come to sing so many times together, acknowledging that power of speech to create worlds over and over. Lai, 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 Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo. Lai, 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 Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo. Lai, 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 Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo. Blessed is the one whose speech is the world. Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo. Blessed is the one forever creating. Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo. Blessed is the one speaking and acting. Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo. Blessed is the one separating and sustaining. Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo. Blessed is the one whose love fills the earth. Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo. Blessed is the one whose compassion gives life. Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo. Blessed is the one who brings us full circle. Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo. Blessed is the one living forever. Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo. 181. Yachid Chei Ha'olamim Melech Meshubach Umefoar Adeh Shemo Hagadol Baruch Ata Adonai Melech Nehulav Batishbachot. Turn to the beautiful words from the psalmist, Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid, the setting that Micah has been bringing to us this year. And we'll change the words just a little bit to say Shiviti Havaya lenegdi tamid. And Micah, would you bring us in again?
Sure. So it's just this beautiful Navatela setting that I think just really reminds us to keep our focus on what matters, and to let that bring us into whatever we need to do. So for a little bit of a, tempo, we could do it like sort of a vibe. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and. Shiviti Havaya Lenegdi Tamid Shiviti Havaya Lenegdi Tamid Shiviti Havaya Lenegdi Tamid Havaya 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 Hava 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 Shiviti Havaya Benedicti Tamid Shiviti Havaya Benedicti Tamid Havaya 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 Havaya
We want to include verses from Psalm 148 now, page 227 in your Siddur. Shabbat. Hallelujah, Shemesh ve'areach. Hallelujah, kol kochveo. Hallelujah, Shvei hashamayim ve'amayim asher me'al hashamayim. Hallelujah, Shem Adonai kivutzima ve'nivrahu vayamidem la'leolam uknatan ve'lo ya'avod. Hallelujah, Shem Adonai kivutzima ve'nivrahu vayamidem la'leolam uknatan ve'lo ya'avod. And the last verse from the Psalms. Kol haneshama te'alel Hallelujah. Kol haneshama te'alel Hallelujah. Kol haneshama Hallelujah. Kol haneshama te'alel Hallelujah. Just heard a little waft of birdsong coming in through the sanctuary doors here. That can be the Amen to the end of these praise verses. And with that, we turn now to page 247 in the Siddur and officially call ourselves into prayer together. Ask everyone to rise together as you're able, rising in your body, in your spirit. And just take a moment to stand up tall. Feel your feet anchored into the ground below you, and your spine lifting up from its base all the way to your heart lifting tall, even taller, and rising again in the chest, letting the back descend down towards the heels. And from here, a little bit of knee bending to offer our gratitude to that source of creation. Barechu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach. Leolam va'ed. Join me, please. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Yotzer or uvorech choshech. Oseh shalom uvorech et hakol. So staying lifted tall in our spirit. If you have a seat, you can take it again now. And turn once again to Micah, to you, and to some English words from the American folk tradition to mirror what our own tradition says about praise and gratitude for nature and for the world.
Yeah, so this one is This Pretty Planet, which we've done a number of times. And I think particularly as the sun is streaming in through the windows and the birds are singing with us, it's a particularly good time to be grateful and enjoy the earth that we have. So we have the three parts. So maybe we'll sing it once, just like together, and then we can break into parts. So
Yeah, and I want to ask Carol Stern if you're able to put those words in the chat so people can see. That'd be great. Thank you.
This pretty planet spinning through space,
Your garden, your harbor, your holy place. Golden sun going down, gentle blue giants spin us around. All through the night, safe till the morning light. This pretty planet spinning through space, you're a garden, you're a harbor, you're a holy place. Golden sun going down, gentle blue giants spin us around. All through the night, safe till the morning light.
This pretty planet spinning through space, you're a garden, you're a harbor, you're a holy place.
This pretty planet spinning through space, you're a garden, you're a harbor, you're a holy place. Golden sun going down, gentle blue giants spin us around.
This pretty
All
planet
through the
spinning through space,
night,
you're a garden, you're a harbor,
till the
you're a
morning
holy
light.
place.
This pretty planet spinning through space, you're a garden, you're a harbor, you're a holy place.
אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מרבה לאורו, ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצר המאורות.
Amen. Turning ahead now to the verses that will bring us into the morning Shema. Let's join together, page 275. Middle of the page. והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול, סלע באמת להודות לך. ולייחדך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע לעולם ועד ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. In a few moments to reflect on those middle passages of the Shema on our own. והיה אם שמוע תשמעו מצוותיי. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור. והיה לכם למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Continuing page 291.
תהילות ליל עליון ברך ומבורך משה מרים ובני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלה נורא תהילות אוסף אלה שיירה חדשה שבחו גאולים לשמחת על שפת הים. יחד כולם הודו והמלכו, יחד כולם הודו והמלכו והמהירו. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ובדך נאמרך, יהודה וישראל. גואלנו, אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני, God Israel. Page 295. אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי יצחק, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי יעקב, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אמן. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי כל חי ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות כל חי. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה כל חי.
Page 303.
נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום. ככתוב על יד נביאך, וכרזה אל זה ואמר. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כיבונדו. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כיבונדו. אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנשאים לעומת צרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי, מתי תמלוך בציון, מתי, מתי תמלוך בציון, מתי, מתי תמלוך בציון, מתי, מתי בציון, בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, ולנצח נצחים בעינינו תראנה, תראנה מלכותך. כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך, ועינינו תראנה, תראנה מלכותך. כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גולך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש. ושיוכח אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לא ימוש לעולם ועד. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. Please continue with the verses on the following pages or your own meditations.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, אל כל ישראל, אל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן, ואמרו
With that, amen, maybe we can say our morning prayers are complete, especially with an exclamation point around the prayers for peace. I ask you to join with me on page 381, just the last few verses in the English, page 380, excuse me, to say together, may the prayer and supplication of the whole house of Israel be acceptable to their Creator in the heavens, and let's say, Amen. May heaven grant a universal peace and life for us and for all Israel, and we say, Amen. May the one who creates harmony above make peace for us, for all Israel, and for all who dwell on earth, and we say, Amen. We're going to turn to our Torah service now. I want to just take a moment and acknowledge the transition space that we're in, because here we are in the sanctuary, at least a few of us. And here are all of you gathered here with us on Zoom. And I have the ability to see you, but not to hear you this morning. We are taking some small steps safely and carefully, and also learning as we go about how to be together again in person. So even though we're here in the sanctuary, we won't be reading from the scroll this morning. We'll be reading as we've been doing on Zoom, inviting readers from our community. This morning it'll be Kayla Niles and Paula Lewis, and then myself reading from the Chumash. And as the weeks flow and the months flow, we'll understand more and more how we can be more of us together safely and eventually here all together and have the Torah scroll with us. But for now, I just want to again express gratitude to Micah and to Cheryl and to our amazing sound support this morning. We have been blessed to be vaccinated, and we were given the green light to be together here with some distance between us, with our doors wide open, and we look forward to a time soon when we can all do that together. Let's turn to page 387 in the Siddur and chant these beautiful words together to bring the Torah forward for us.
ולשמי קדישה יקירה, אנא מרדוש בכן, בינה רחץ, ולשמי קדישה יקירה, אנא מרדוש בכן, יהרה וקודמך, ותפתח ליבי ואורייתא, ותשלים משאלים דליבי, וליבא דכל עמך ישראל, לטוב ולחיים ולשלום.
Page 393, Cheryl first, and we'll answer.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shmo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shmo. A few words of Torah, just a few, to bring us into this morning's readings. Parashat Tazria Metzora. There's an old custom in the more traditional corners of the Jewish community that young boys entering yeshiva start their studies with Leviticus. I don't know if this custom is still in force, but it has always piqued my curiosity. It doesn't seem like the most natural place to start a young learner in Torah, at least not on first glance. But then we get to these middle weeks of Leviticus, especially next week. Next week also a double parsha, Acharei Mot Kedoshim, and we start to see the logic. Next week's parasha, Kedoshim especially, will spell out the very foundations of how to live together in justice, in peace, in civility. That's not a bad place to start with an 8-year-old. Backing up to this week, we're asked to contemplate some facets of our humanity which are not maybe immediately inviting whatever our age. In this week's reading, Tazria Metzora, the Torah lays out how one responds to the appearance of physical disease on our bodies, in our homes, and then further explores the spiritual meaning of bodily emissions and eruptions. I don't think they teach this part in Kita Gimel, but clearly our ancestors considered this material important enough to include it in the Torah, actually right here at the center of the Torah. We come from an ancient tradition that sees body and soul as one integrated whole, that doesn't shy away from exploring the meaning of our physical experience. It feels strange to us to come to shul, okay, whether in person or on Zoom, and talk about eczema, mold, seminal emissions, and menstruation as part of our spiritual life. But this is in fact how our ancestors understood it. If it is part of the human experience, then it is also part of the God field. This more integrated paradigm would get dismissed by later civilizations, maybe beginning with the Greeks, I'm not sure, and then their European descendants who thought of matter and spirit, of physicality and spirit as two separate realms. I see this connection between this disintegrated view and our strange relationship with physicality in American society, which is often strangely simultaneously puritanical and over-sexualized. The Torah seems to say to us that we should understand every aspect of our physical experience as part of one whole and learn as much from the more mundane aspects of our bodies and homes as we do from our more explicit spiritual practice. So if the verses today, as we encounter them again this year, seem once again jarring or somehow just ill-fitting, we have to see ourselves as we are invited into the worldview of those ancestors who put down these verses, and perhaps allow their worldview to repenetrate our own, a worldview which once again asks us to see it all, body, heart, mind, and soul, as one continuous whole experience. I think of the title, the book title that I bet many of you have read, The Body Keeps the Score, a modern exploration of what I think our ancestors understood, that while we never ever would consider disease or even just regular bodily functions as a punishment from God, never, we do recognize that the body can teach us things that we may not be able to learn from our cerebral or intellectual pursuits. So with that bit of appreciation, let's turn to our readings. We're going to, bear with me for just a moment. We're going to Leviticus chapter 13, beginning with verse 40. And in just a moment, we'll invite Kayla Niles to read, zooming in from Florida this morning. But I want to pause here because the third Aliyah this morning is still open. And it would really be wonderful if we could have a volunteer from our community to take this third Aliyah. It can be for a special reason, or it can be just because you're here this morning and participating in community. And if someone would raise your hand to take that third Aliyah, our phones are open and waiting and ready to receive a volunteer. So I'll just let you think about that. It looks like Luther Jet, we're going to be giving you that Aliyah. Thank you, Luther. I want to again express my appreciation to our marvelous Gabayim. All of them are marvelous, but today's marvelous ones are Carol Stern and Vicki Stern, not related. who are helping us to, again, take this step into this new format that we're trying today. This format today includes one challenge, which is that I can see all of you, but I can't hear you. So Kayla, when you read, I'll need you to gesture so that I know you're done. And our honorees, likewise, who are going to call with great fanfare in just a moment, I'll need you to somehow look up at your screen so I know that you're finished with your blessings. I'm getting a signal from Jeff Gruber that, in fact, we can. I take it all back. I will be able to hear you. Marvelous. So let's begin with the first Aliyah, page 834 in the older version of the Plaut Chumash, or page 739 and 40 in the newer version. We're going to hear Kayla Niles reading, and what a delight to call forward Barb and Charlie Richmond for this first Aliyah in celebration of their 40th wedding anniversary. So first, to call you properly, Ve'ya'azor ve'yagen ve'yoshia lechol hachosim bo v'nomar amen. Hakol havu godel Eloheinu tnu kavod laTorah. Ye'amdu Zalman Shimon ben Shaul v'Menucha Fega v'Bela Tema bat Yisrael Mer v'Hinda Munya la'aliyah harishona. Baruch shenatan tomar le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. ואתם הדבקים באדוני אלוהיכם, חיים כולכם היום. Barb and Charlie, first the bracha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Beish ki marek rosho kereachu tahorhu ve'im mibat panav yimarek rosho gibeachu tahorhu v'chiev akarachat o vagabachat negal lavan adam dam Sarat porachat hihi bekarachto o begabachto bera'oto hakohen beines etanega levana adam demet bekarachto o begabachto kemaret sarat or basar ishtaruahu Tamehu, Tameit menu, Hakohen berosho nigo, Behatzarua, Asher bohaneda, Bedadav yufrumim, berosho yefarua, Bialsafam yate, Tame yikra. Kol yemei asher hanegabo yitma tamehu badan yeshed michutz lamachaneh v'hoshavo.
Baruch atah Adonai halamed Torah le'amo Yisrael.
Amen. Yishar kochech, Kayla, and Barb and Charlie. I'm looking down at my Zoom screen so I can look at the two of you and wishing I could reach out and hold your hands. We are thrilled to call you to this virtual bima this morning in honor of your 40th wedding anniversary. I know, Barb, you did some research into what can we make out of the number 40, and you may have your own insights to share if you want. I'll simply acknowledge for us this morning what a number 40 is in our tradition. It's a number of completion and of new possibility. Of course, the flood took place over 40 days and 40 nights and ended with finally the reassurance of dry land and a new beginning, a new chapter. And of course, Moshe Rabbeinu was on Har Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights to receive the Torah and to come back to the community to deal with the realities of life that had preceded there in his absence. We wish you the same strength and the same openness to new beginnings as you complete one chapter of your marriage, one mighty chapter, I must say, and move on to the next one with a great sense of adventure and of possibility and gratitude for the many blessings. Charlie and Barb, I don't know if you want to add anything of your own here.
40 is crazy, as our grandson would say. That's crazy. 40 years Moses wandered in the desert, but as the t-shirt that Charlie often wears for Pesach says, not all who wander are lost. And we certainly have not been lost with each other.
Sure enough.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's a delight to have shared so many of those years in this congregation with all of you.
Hear, hear. We wish you the same, to move forward together in good health and in constant loving companionship. I'd like to offer Misha Berach in honor of this marvelous milestone. Misha Berach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel veLeah Hu Yivarech et Belatem Bat Yisrael Mer veHindemunya ואת זלמן שמעון בן שאול ומנוחה פגה שבאו היום לבית קודשך להודות ולהלל על כל החסד אשר עשית עמם מעודם מיום שמחת ליבם עד היום הזה יום מלאות 40 שנה מעת באו בברית אהבה וכשם שזכו לשמוח ביום הזה כן יזכו לאריכת ימים ולשיבה טובה. May you continue the next chapter beyond 40 years, a length of days and good wisdom. וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם, עם כל ישראל אחיכם ואחיותיהם. ונאמר amen. Barb and Charlie saying in the English, as you have merited to celebrate today, so may you enjoy a length of days unto a ripe and full old age, at least 120. May you enjoy blessing and success in all you undertake together, in good health, with all Israel, and we all say, Amen. Simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, Yelanu, 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 Ulechol Yisrael, Yelanu, Yelanu, Ulechol Yoshvei Tevel, Yelanu, Yelanu, Ulechol Yisrael, Yelanu, Yelanu, Ulechol Yoshvei Tevel. Mazal, mazal, mazal. Only good things going forward. Second Aliyah, Leviticus chapter 13, beginning with verse 47. We'll now hear Paula Lewis reading. You can find the text in your Chumash, page 837 in the older Plout, or page 740 in the newer. And it's a delight to call another pair celebrating a special anniversary, Audrey Lyon and Jeff Weintraub. Yamdu Yosef Aharon ben David Verina ve'Aviva bat Ruven ve'Yehudit la'aliyah hashniya.
Nice.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
אמן. והבגד כי יבוא נגע צרעת, בבגד צמר או בבגד פשתים, או ושתי או וערב לפשתים ולצמר, או ואור, או בכל מלאכת אור. והיה הנגע ירקרק או אדם דם, בבגד או באור, או בשתי או בערב או בכל כלי אור, נגע צרעת הוא. והורה את הכהן, וראה הכהן את הנגע, והסגיר את הנגע 7 ימים. וראה את הנגע ביום השביעי, כי פסע הנגע בבגד, או בשתי, או בערב, או באור, לכל אשר יעשה האור למלאכה צרעת ממארת הנגע טמא הוא. ושרף את הבגד, או את השתי, או את הערב, בצמר או בפשתים, או את כל כלי האור, אשר יהיה בו הנגע, כי צרעת ממארת היא באש תשרף. ואם יראה הכהן, והנה לא פסע הנגע בבגד, או בשתי, או בערב, או בכל כלי אור, וציווה הכהן, וכיבסו את אשר בו הנגע, והזכירו 7 ימים שנית.
Baruch atah Adonai, hamilonei Torah le'amo Yisrael.
Amen. Audrey and Jeff, you know, we didn't choose this Torah reading especially for you, but I can't help but notice that the text moves from looking at eruptions on the skin to now eruptions on a piece of cloth. And anyone who knows Audrey knows that you have become a master embroiderer and person who works with cloth constantly during this pandemic. So is there anyone in the community, maybe a few others, who could be so expert in examining whether a piece of cloth is fit for use? And Jeff, who's been very much a priest in our community, is invoked here in this reading as well as the one who can recognize when it's time to move ahead with spiritual practice and when it's time to pause and let things settle. It's a delight to recognize you both on this special anniversary and to acknowledge 30. What do we say about 30 in Mishnah Avot, where the different ages are given each of their qualities? It says, Ben shloshim lakoach. The age of 30 is an age of strength. And as I've said before, perhaps several times in community, what I learned from my own father-in-law about this word koach, strength, is that it could be understood not just as physical strength, perhaps not really as physical strength, but as moral courage. And wishing you both, two who have been very much pillars, not just in the Adat Shalom community, but in the wider Jewish community and in the wider world, to continue to find the moral courage to move forward in your lives together and to draw that strength from one another as you move into this new decade. And a blessing for you as well, מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, ואמותינו שרה רבקה רחל ולאה, הוא יברך את אביבה בת ראובן ויהודית, ואת יוסף אהרון בן דוד ורינה, שבאו היום לבית קודשך להודות ולהלל על כל החסד אשר עשית עמם מעודם מיום שמחת ליבם עד היום הזה, יום מלאות 30 שנה מעת באו בברית אהבה, וכשם שזכו לשמוח ביום הזה, כי נזכו לאריכת ימים ולשיבה טובה. Blessing you with a length of days into a full old age. וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם. Blessing and success on all the works of your hands, your hearts and minds. על כל ישראל אחיכם ואחיותיהם. ונאמר אמן. Mazal Tov, Audrey and Jeff. Good things and good health going forward. Pause now and turn back to Micah and to Cheryl and to all of us to share in a blessing of healing. Inviting, Micah, will you invite people to share their names and
Sure. Just as we go into Ana Elna, the prayer for healing, if anyone has someone in particular or a particular type of healing or whatever is on your minds, feel free as the piano sort of begins to collect the spirit of the healing, to just say whatever's on your mind in your own heart, however feels right.
we will hold on to those blessings of healing for the ones who were named here this morning and for all the healing that is in so urgent need all around our world. Continue now with our third reading the final reading for this morning, the maftir for Metzora, Parashat Metzora. You can find it in your Chumash, Leviticus chapter 15, verse 31. Page 854 in the older version of the Chumash and 759 in the newer. And thank you, Luther Jett, for coming forward as our honoree this morning. We'll wait to hear your blessing and then continue with the verses.
Thank you. I'm not celebrating an anniversary, but I am celebrating because my newest book was released Friday afternoon.
Oh my goodness.
Little Wars was released by Kelsey Books, so that was unexpectedly sooner than I thought it would be. So with that,
Wait, but Luther, let's ask you the title of the new book.
It's called Little Wars, and it's a cycle of poetry about war and conflict.
Mazal Tov, and we can't wait to see it and hold it in hand.
Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen. Amen. והזהרתם את בני ישראל מטומאתם, ולא ימותו בטומאתם, בטמאם את משכני אשר בתוכם. זאת תורת הזב, ואשר תצא ממנו, שכבת זרע לטומאה בה. והדבר בנידתה, והזה את זובו לזכר ולנקבה, ולאיש אשר ישכב עם טמאה.
Baruch atah Adonai, hamelamed Torah li'amo Yisrael.
Amen. Amen. And Yishar Koach for all of the beautiful work that you've done and contributed. And as we're saying, we look forward to the chance to hear and see some of this new work of yours, Luther.
Thank you.
Yishar Koach. Before we close the Torah service this morning, we go to those prayers that are reserved for this time when, at least in person, the Torah scroll is out in our midst. And we lift up those wishes that are really dear to our heart. This is Cheryl's beautiful chanting of Be'ana Rachetz just a little bit ago, when we say, may this encounter with Torah help us discover what our deepest questions and longings and yearnings are. This week, the Jewish world observed Israeli Independence Day, 73 years of a modern state of Israel. Many, many celebrated with great joy, and a growing number with an uneasy ambivalence. And I have to say, not to mention those who've given up altogether. Even for those among us who still choose to wear the mantle Zionist, the beautiful dream that propelled Israel's early builders and founders, which inspired thousands of Jewish people to withstand not only physical discomfort and threats to personal safety, but many other sacrifices, that dream seems more remote than ever right now. And of course, given the roller coaster ride in American politics for the last 5 years, many of us have simply not found the bandwidth to be as interested as we might aspire. But the Jewish calendar guides our attention. It beckons us to grapple with our Jewish national heartburn and heartbreak as we celebrate another year of an imperfect and still most miraculous state of Israel. We send our wishes of moral courage, koach, of peace, of new possibility in coexistence, in peaceful civility to that beloved place on the planet, place that's beloved for us. I'd like to share a prayer for the state of Israel. It's based on the text that's in our Siddur. So I'll ask you to turn back there. Page 421, 420 and 421, and we'll see these words at the latter part of the traditional words. Ha'atzel meruchacha al kol yoshvei eretz kodshenu. Ha'atzel meruchacha. Make your spirit emanate on all dwellers of our holy land. Kol yoshvei eretz kodshenu. All of the dwellers of our holy land. Haser mikirbam sin'a ve'eva kin'a ve'rishut. Remove from among them hatred and enmity, jealousy and wickedness. V'ta belibam ahava ve'achva shalom ve'reut. Plant in them, instill in them, root and deepen in their hearts love and kinship, peace and friendship. And we end with the vision of Isaiah once again. V'kayem bimhera chazon neviecha, lo yisagoy el goy cherev, ve'lo yilmedu od milchama, v'nomar amen. Will you start us, Micah? Hatzel meruchacha, meruchacha, al kol yoshvei eretz kodshenu, eretz kodshenu. Haser mikirbam sin'a ve'eva kin'a ve'rishut ve'ta belibam ahava ve'achva shalom ve'reut ve'kayem bimhera chazon neviecha, neviecha, lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama, lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama, lo yisagoy, lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama, lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Join me, please, also in a prayer for our country, which has been rocked by its own turmoil this week. Please say with me, page 418. Sovereign of the universe, mercifully receive our prayer for our land and its government. Let your blessing pour out on this land and on all officials, from local police to the highest offices, with the public needs. Instruct them from your Torah's laws, enable them to understand your principles of justice so that peace and tranquility, happiness and freedom, justice and civility might never turn away from our land. Please, wise one, God of the life breath of all flesh, waken your spirit within all inhabitants of our land and plant among the peoples of different nationalities and faiths who dwell here love and brotherhood, peace and friendship. Uproot from their hearts all hatred and enmity, all jealousy and vying for supremacy. Fulfill the yearning of all the people of our country to speak proudly in its honor. Fulfill their desire to see it become a light to all nations. May it be your will that our land should be a blessing to all inhabitants of the globe. Cause to dwell among all peoples friendship and freedom, and soon fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. Let them learn no longer ways of war. And we say, Amen. The doors of the ark are closing. We'll say together, Eitz Chaim Hi. Cheryl, will you lead that? Page 441 in your Siddur.
Eitz Chaim Hi למחזיקים בה ואת זומחיה מאושר דרכיה דרכי נועם בכל נתיבותיה שלום השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדש ימינו כקדם.
So first to share these words.
Sure. So, and this is sort of Bimkom Musaf was the idea, right? Mm-hmm. So if we're delving a little deeper into some of the profound words that you were saying, Rachel, earlier about what possibility in Jerusalem, in the land that we cared so deeply about, might look like. One of the things that's really important is to fully see reality for what it is and the multiple realities for what they are in order to be able to then see what we might have in common, rather than to be afraid of seeing things that are there because maybe they're difficult, or maybe we're not so proud of them, or not really something to celebrate. But if we want to have an opportunity to create the kind of future that we want to see, then it's important to look one another and reality in the eyes and to see that many of the feelings that we have, others also have, but sort of in a mirror image kind of a way. And so the song that I've played before in some of the services that we've done, Belibi, by David Broza and Saeed Murad in Hebrew and Arabic, really again is that mirror in a way, that the things that we feel, the connection in our hearts, in our bodies, in our souls, are also felt by others. Perhaps those who traditionally we have thought to have less legitimate claim. And so that's an important thing about this, is really seeing that actually that can be a point of commonality and a point of beginning rather than a point of ending. So the song, we wanted to take a moment to at least teach the Hebrew of the chorus here. And so the words are Belibi.
Belibi.
So in my heart, Begufi.
Begufi.
In my body, Beruchi.
Beruchi.
In my spirit, Bechelki.
Bechelki.
In my portion, Artsenu.
Artsenu.
Our land, Damenu.
Damenu.
Our blood, Nafshenu.
Nafshenu.
Our souls, Chayenu.
Chayenu.
Our lives. And then this is translated roughly into the Arabic as well. This idea that all of these all of these loci, if you will, of connection to this place are shared fundamentally. So that's belibi, begufi, beruchi, bechelki, artsenu, damenu, nafshenu, chayenu. Should I teach the other Hebrew as well for the chorus part? Because there are two parts.
Yeah, sure.
So the second part, then you have ha'emet,
Ha'emet,
the truth, ve'ha'or,
ve'ha'or,
and the light, mefukach,
mefukach,
sober, oshikor,
oshikor,
or drunk, be'enai,
be'enai,
in my eyes, rigshotai,
rigshotai,
in my feelings, at ahavati,
at ahavati.
you are my love. So here we go.
אדם הוא בן אדם, וזמן הוא פסק זמן, בונה את עולמו, פורח בגנו.
كان في إنسان ضاع في هذا الزمان يبني عالمه يزرع ورد البستان
בליבי, בגופי, ברוחי, בחלקי, ארצנו, דמנו, נפשנו, חיינו.
عالمنا في جسدي في روحي في عقلي أرضنا أنت في دمي أنت في روحي أنت معي أنت ملح البحر النور والحقيقة
המלך והים הם את.
النور والحقيقة في الصحو وفي السكر في عيوني إحساسي أنت حبيبتي
האמת והאור מפוכח או שיכור בעיניי רגשותיי את אהבתי. Let that beautiful prayer, not only the beauty of the music that Micah has brought us, but the prayer itself to sink in and to open our own faith in what could come.
The sound of possibility.
Hear, hear. Go now to our closing prayers, to begin first with acknowledging losses in our community. First of all, to start Lauren Randall, who's just closing the first month of remembering her mother, Elaine Randall. And then to acknowledge those loved ones who are being remembered by people in our community as a yahrzeit. Karen Paley remembering her father, and Derek Paley, his grandfather, Philip Sermon. Bob Furman remembering his father, Herbert Furman. Marla Zippin remembering her grandfather, Michael Orchin. Sandy Hayward remembering her husband, our most beloved friend and member, Sam Book. Andy Gavel remembering his mother, Ruth Gavel. Michael Laufer remembering his father, Leopold Laufer. Ralph Nitkin remembering his mother, Rosalind Nitkin. Michelle Mellinger remembering her grandfather, Philip Spivak. Kit Turin, her father, Milton Turin. Bruce Kutnick, his aunt, Ray Wolf. Art Greenblatt, his mother, Annie Greenblatt. Jody Lipson, remembering her mother on the first yahrzeit, Renee Lipson. Roberta Jacobson, remembering her father, Julian Steinfeld. Myrna Tech, remembering her father, Joseph Tech. Abe Finkelstein, remembering his wife, Janice Bloom Finkelstein. Carol Light, remembering her father, Irving Marks. Patty Iglarsh, remembering her father, Leon Miller. Harold Jaffe, remembering his brother, Milton Jaffe. Julia Tossel, remembering her aunt, Ray Perlstein. Alyssa Stern, remembering her grandmother, Julia Yankowitz. Abby Alpern, her mother, Harriet Alpern. David Kupfer, his father, Henry Gershon Kupfer. Neil Maxstein, remembering his father, Floyd Maxstein. Marla Zippin, remembering her grandmother, Ida Orkin. Martin Tolchin, Marty, remembering his wife, our beloved friend, our member, Sue Tolchin. And Noah Baum, remembering her grandmother, Minna Rosenberg. The Kaddish Yatom in our prayer books on page 451, inviting those who are in mourning or observing a yahrzeit to please stand and say together, Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'zman kariv v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu'ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael,
Hello.
v'tevel v'imru amen.
Yay.
Zichronam livracha, all of those memories for blessing. Let's turn back now, page 445. Ask everyone to rise as you're able. Turn to Cheryl.
Einod, 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 Aleinu l'shabech l'adon l'kol, לתת שנתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. אין עוד, 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 ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. אין עוד, 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 ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. אין עוד, 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 אין
We can be seated. Come to the very end of our morning together. Want to call forward Jody Lipson, our board member, to share greetings and any announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. What a blessing to be back in our sanctuary virtually. Rabbi Rachel, Cheryl, beautiful. And we really welcome Micah Hendler, and we thank Rabbi Sid and Sandy Perlman for bringing this beautiful Shabbaton to us. It's just such a spiritual filling morning. And we also welcome Idan. And please stay with us after the close of the service, and Idan will be talking to us about the very important work he's been doing since he left us to return to Israel. As always, please keep up with social solidarity, and that's where we have all the information. We welcome our visitors today, and if you have any questions or want to just check in, the board is always welcome to talk to you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Jody. So we have just a closing Adon Olam to share, and then as Jody explained, our post-service gathering time today, there'll be a little bit of time to say hello, to schmooze, how was your week, and then to turn back right at noon to Idan and to hear what is happening in Israel through his eyes. First, please join us on page 459. Toda Rabba Rabba to Micah Hendler, to Cheryl Hurwitz, to Jeff Gruber and his associate Daniel, right here behind us, behind you actually. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'Terem Kol Yetzir Kira Et Nasa V'Chefzo Kol Azai Melech Shelo Nikra Adon Olam Asher Malach B'Terem Kol Yetzir Kira Et Nasa Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Turn it over to Carol and to Vicky to break us into breakthrough groups, and then over to our Israel Connection Committee, Karen Fierst, and welcoming Idan Sharon.
I guess.
I'm getting a weird message that says they're going to close. It shouldn't close.
I didn't think we were doing them.
I didn't think so either, but we are.
Okay. Oh, the breakout rooms went away.
I don't know why it said. That's weird.
Yeah, everybody came back and now they're going back. So did you do it a second time?
I did, but I don't know why they were closing the first time.
Well, I've lost connection a couple of times. So what is Steve Brody?
I'm going to move Myrna to 15. And move Neil.
Are there enough people in 4?
Because
that's where it wants me to go, but I thought I'd stay.
No, 4 has only 2 people. You can go.
Okay.
I'll move Mark to 4 also.
Okay.
I can't unmute. You can't unmute? Well, I gotta handle this, so hold on.
I'll just sit with you because I can't do it from there.
Well, you won't be able to do it from here either.
I'm locked out. I'll just listen.
Try unplugging the headset and see what happens. The headset is unplugged? I'll plug it in.
Oh, thank you.
Carol.
All back together.
There are no breakout rooms. We're all back together.
We're all back with you.
Yeah, we had 1 minute in the room before it closed.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Right.
We
got kicked out of the room within a minute of 2 minutes of going in.
Yeah, we all got kicked out of our rooms. So we're all back in the main room.
That's so bizarre. I'm not sure
I
why.
just barely had enough time to grab a bagel.
Well, it's interesting because room 15 has people in it.
Can somebody zoom me
we
back?
can send you back.
Room 8. I was in room 14.
Try sending us back.
Doesn't matter, forget it.
Okay, click on breakout rooms and you can select a room.
Okay.
Room 1, room 2. Just pick a room. You'll see people.
Where are
room 4, but I have no idea how to get there.
Click on the breakout room.
Where? Honestly.
Where?
There should be on the bottom. You may have to click a more button. There's something that says breakout rooms.
Nope. Nope. Not for us.
Oh, then you haven't upgraded your Zoom.
I only want to point out that we're supposed to be back in 3 minutes anyhow.
Anyway, yeah, so go take a break and come back in 3 minutes.
So what the heck? It's time for bio break. Get your lunch whatever.
Yeah.
Nice seeing you. Goodbye.
Relax.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Maybe I can have a spoonful of peanut butter then.
All right. There's no breakout room on my,
Yeah, well, we're got to be back in 2 minutes anyway.
it doesn't matter. Yeah, I just always am curious why nothing of mine works.
Go Gabayim. Thank you so much for today. Kol hakavod.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to the breakout rooms. They didn't stay for whatever reason, but
You know, another thing, for that 1 minute I was in the breakout room, my mic kept getting muted. I kept unmuting it and it kept going back to mute. So, yeah.
Yeah, I barely had enough time to grab a bagel in there.
okay. Well, take your bio break. We're going to start with Idan in 2 minutes. So come back.
I'm just saying, I'll just hang out.
Okay.
Something bad will happen if I don't. Oh, whoa, that is beautiful, Steve. How do I get, I only have two options.
You're
on-
done or not?
The main session.
Yeah.
What happened in the main session?
You done?
Oh, okay. Do you want,
Well, the Constitution is being read wrong.
Turn it off and on again.
Would you like to?
Yeah.
Idan, I like your background.
Hey, Jackie.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
love
tried.
that background, though.
See being done.
Easier.
Hey,
Oh, done.
Hi, Don.
Hi, everyone.
I have to mute everybody, but we're going to listen
Shalom.
to Karen and Idan in about 1 minute.
What can we say? Hi, Don.
Just say hi.
Hi.
In Israeli, but
Hi.
You. Good to see you. So good.
Idan, you should be able to unmute.
Good to see everyone. קרן, איפה את? There, I asked you to unmute. Maybe now you can.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
I've had some technical difficulties. First of all, Shabbat Shalom to everyone. And a big thank you, Toda Rabah, to Idan for joining us for our update, our Yom Ha'atzmaut update on Israel. I'm actually currently in Israel. Where I am right now, it is 93 degrees Fahrenheit. And I understand that where all you are is about 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So 93 is actually low. It was warmer today at Kibbutz Keturah. I learned something during this trip to Israel that I had not known. What I did know is that Israel's Independence Day, Yom Ha'atzmaut, is on the 5th of Iyar. Now, interestingly, today is the 5th of Iyar. But in Israel, Yom Ha'atzmaut was actually celebrated this past Thursday. Idan may discuss this, but what Israel has done is put Yom HaZikaron, their Memorial Day, immediately preceding their Independence Day. And there is a very important and impressive transition from Memorial Day to Independence Day. There are also a number of air raid sirens that go off at designated times to commemorate the fallen, any of those who have fallen on behalf of the Jewish people, really, but certainly the soldiers. But apparently the decision was made that in order to celebrate Independence Day and to acknowledge Memorial Day as they should be, that when Independence Day falls on Shabbat, the 5th of Iyar, that the holiday will be moved up to the previous Thursday. That was news to me. So Idan, after all these years, I'm still learning a lot about Israel too. So I would like to welcome you and thank you. At some point, Bruce Kutnick is going to take over for me. I would appreciate it if you would keep yourselves muted until later in the program. If you have questions, please write them in the chat box and we will ask them of Idan later. So Idan's going to fill us in both about himself and about what's happening in Israel. And Baruch haba, Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's good to be back. And I'm still shocked that it's almost been a year. It's just, it has been such a slow / extremely fast year. It's breezed by, but it's like, it was like a snail walking across the sidewalk. It was both of them simultaneously. About what Karen said about moving the day in Israel, because Shabbat is the day of rest by the state, then our national holidays, when they coincide with Shabbat, are moved either before or after. And especially when it's such a big day like Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaTzmaut, our Memorial Day, and Independence Day, we can't have them on Friday and Saturday. So it's every year we hear what the government says is the day, and it's like, that's the day. It doesn't matter when the 5th of Iyar was. We make it work. So I'll start with a short introduction because I think most of you know me, but some of you may not. So hello, my name is Idan Sharon. I am 26 years old. I am from Bet Shemesh, and I came back this summer from 2 years in Adat Shalom, being their Israeli emissary, their shaliach, and it's great to be back. This year, I did several different seminars and courses. I studied to become a parliamentary assistant in the Israeli parliament, in the Knesset. It was a fascinating course. I did different other courses throughout the year and signed up to study next year in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and getting a degree, a double degree in Jewish philosophy, even though, never mind, I won't get into the reads, but Jewish philosophy and education. And I've started working at the Rothbard School of International Studies at the Hebrew University. It's a fascinating work, and my boss tells me that it's 90% of the times it's people who have done my job at Adat Shalom as shlichim coming back to Israel and coming to work with Rothbard, because it's kind of like a mirror image to that. My family as well. My mama sends her warm hugs and kisses to all of you. She says she's missing you. And my sister got her honorable discharge from the military this week after 2 years in the military. We are very proud of her. She was in the Israeli Air Force intelligence. And that is the basic introduction of me and what I did this time. What we will be talking about today is a lot of subjects. And like we say in Hebrew, Kol HaTorah al regel achat, the entire Torah on one leg, like in a zap of like, we're gonna get something like 7 minutes per topic, and I'm leaving a third of the time for your questions. So please write them down, because what you may not know is 90% what other people are most wanting to ask and are maybe shy or unsure. So please write your questions. I will be using a Prezi presentation. So you may not be able to see me, but I'm attentive. If at any point I jam or freeze or log out, it's because I had a signal problem before. Now it's all well. I'm just giving you a heads up. Let us begin. Ha. Okay. Let's put you like this. Ah. Where is it? Oh, thank you. Okay. Let's move this little thing here. Can you all see? I need someone to unmute and just tell me that you can see because I can't see you
All
now.
good, Idan, all good.
Yeah, we can see.
Excellent.
We could see right now. Not there. It is good.
Excellent. So we are going to look at 4 different topics. We're going to start with politics and then move to COVID and then to Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut. So we've had a lot of everything, but we are going to start with elections. So many of you who do have not followed Israeli politics, like Rabbi Rachel said before, we have had our 4th election in the last 2 years. Oh, just a second. What? Can you hear me? Can you see? I'm having some difficulties.
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, so it's only on my side. It's okay. So we've had our 4th election because we have a politician that is just clinging onto his chair so forcefully and so bluntly. It's just ridiculous, really. And I'm talking about our Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. This election brought with it a list of racists, misogynists, homophobes as Knesset members, people who are the spiritual sons of Meir Kahana and his people like him, people who are basically Jewish purists. And in the last election, Netanyahu got the most mandates of all of the different party heads. And the gap is like 10 mandates from him and the person in the second place. Where is Yair? This is Yair Lapid. I won't daunt you with the mandate numbers because I'm pretty sure we're going to have a 5th election coming up. And really, even someone as politically invested as me, like we've just grown tired. We're seeing that in the 4th election in a row, the public has not changed his mind. Nothing of incredible importance has happened in our value-driven lives to change the way we vote. Sometimes we try and create like this sort of coalition of different parties, so we vote somewhere else within our idealistic camp, but people don't shift. And that means that for 4 consecutive election system, yes? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, someone talk to me. Is everything okay?
Everything's fine.
Excellent. So for 4 consecutive election systems, we have had basically the same results. And Netanyahu got a mandate from the president of Israel. So Netanyahu is the prime minister and the president has the power basically with no mandatory guidelines, just suggestions. He can recommend which party head gets to form the government. And if that party head doesn't get it, the next person in line gets it, and so forth. So he has now 30 days to come up with 61 mandates to form a government. If he's not able, there will be 5th election. If the person after him is not able, there will be a 5th election, so forth. I just want to point out that we have only 1 party head that is female, and that is Merav Michaeli. God bless her soul. She is incredible. She's doing great work, and we love her. Where was I? Just a second. Aha, okay. So Netanyahu is standing trial for several corruption cases against him. And he's trying now to become the president, because if he's the president and not the prime minister, then he is in official capacity. He's basically like the father of the state for those 4 years, and he is basically immune to prosecution. He's trying to get to 75. He's not young, but he's trying to get to the age of 70, 75, and then it won't matter like how much time he spends in prison. And for the past, I think I came back to Israel August, while I was in quarantine for those 2 weeks. Every Shabbat, there were weekly protests. Ever since August, there has been weekly protests through Corona, through everything, against Netanyahu's corruption. And it is really an astonishing force that just keeps reminding the people that such corruption cannot just continue in silence, even though he has, after a decade in power, he has a lot of people working with him. The last one, and this is a very important one, is the Likud party, which Netanyahu is the head of, is blocking an appointment of the Minister of Justice. And this is extremely severe, because in time of crisis like this, you can't do many, many things without your Minister of Justice. For example, our COVID-19 cabinet, which signs off on all the decisions, it can't even come together. Meaning there's a program right now that they wanted to start helping medical staff and patients that suffer from mental health issues and mental stress. They tried to create a program to help them and support them through this crisis. And just because there's no Minister of Justice, the cabinet can't even assemble. Like, they can't even come together, let alone make a decision. The defense and national security cabinets are severely impaired. Vast majority of legislation is just halted, outright halted. There's no legislation right now. And the appointment of high-ranking people in the government, like the how do you say, state attorney, cannot be appointed right now. And again, we're having military action going on in Iran, as we're saying in the last week. We're having COVID-19 problems from here until the end of Tuesday. It's just, it's really astonishing what's going on. And the last one is that because we don't have a state attorney, the power to pardon people goes to the prime minister, who is now being charged for crimes of corruption. And his wife is already, like, she was found to be a criminal. So he can, for example, pardon her, and no one can say anything about it. This is what I have to talk with you about politics. I'm seeing there are questions there. I can't look at them now, but I'll try and answer them later. That is our political sphere. People in Israel in general, just from one point, they're like, we can't let this happen. And from the other hand, it's like, this again, like, how can this, like, we just keep discovering awful things about the way the government is run. COVID-19. So first of all, I'll say we have, as of now, this is from yesterday, 6,314 people dead from the start of the coronavirus. And we have had 4.9 million people vaccinated. I'll soon take you to a link that shows a lot more data in depth. But I will say that Israel has handled the corona pretty well. Like, we are going to have a decade and a half of economic problems. The percentage of people who've lost their job is like, it was 25% unemployment. And before Corona, our unemployment percent was, I think, 3%. So we're going to have a financial crisis. on top of everything. This week, our education system back in person schooling for the first time since September. This is an adorable picture, I must say. Every time I look at them, they're so cute. But we're seeing through different measurements that the Ministry of Education is doing is that students have had a major hit in the way they learn. We're seeing a lot of falling back in class. We're seeing students that have, aside from their mental health problems that were caused by COVID and the stress and the social anxiety, we're seeing a lot more in the studies area. And I'm taking us straight to a news website. Let's see. I hope, can you see this? Can you see the website or can't you?
Yes, we can see it.
Excellent. So this is the N12, News 12, Channel 12 News. And this is a Corona map. We have numbers, we compare it worldwide. So this is verified yesterday. Yesterday, we had 30 people who were verified as new Corona patients. So just to give you an example, the day before the number was 99, the day before it was 199, and the day before that it was 70. Dead from the start of the plague, we had one new dead since I wrote it yesterday, 6,315. And we have vaccinated in the first vaccination, never mind. First vaccination, we have 5.3 million and 4.9 altogether vaccinated. So I'm going to show you different graphs, and they're mostly numbers, but also Hebrew. This is the amount of people infected in Israel by day from the start of COVID right here to the end. So we're seeing we had 2 spikes in Israel in general since last year. We have this smaller one and this extremely huge one. And the numbers here are very low, luckily. Let's add, okay. So this is a graph that allows you to compare different countries. So let's take Israel, the US, Denmark, China, and Iran. Okay, those are our choices. Okay, just a second. How do I move this? Oh, thank you. Just a second. How do you close this thing? Okay. So this is the percentage of people in said country who have gotten their vaccination. So this is Israel, and this is the United States. The United States, you have 125 people vaccinated. That is almost 40% of the population. And Israel has 61%. And as you can see of Russia, China, Iran, because we're a small country, there's a lot of advantage here that we had to invest less funds, and the way we distribute it to the population is much better. And we're already seeing more than half of the population that is vaccinated completely. That is second vaccination. Let's see. This is the back to a routine chart, and we're seeing it. This is from last week. This is from last week, and we were 87% back to normal. So this is school, this is clinics, this is everything, and this is basically the best point we are since we started COVID. The most similar one was 83%, 84%, and it was, when was it? It was in August of last year. So we've had a bad year like everyone else, and we are almost back to normal. We are 90% back to normal. Let's see. This is patients by city. I'm skipping that. This is patients by city. So the green one is Jerusalem, and then we have Tel Aviv as the blue one. and we're saying that basically the only city that we're saying a major spike in people getting infected is Jerusalem, but it's like it's not that bad when you compare it. This is patients whose איך אומרים את זה? מצב. They're very sick patients in Israel, and the number has gone down significantly. We can see it here. And just a second, where is Hispanic Bakim? Just a second, I'm skipping because I want to show Corona around the world. Okay, so I'm just dropping everything, and I'm showing you only Israel and the US. So this is the amount of sick people per time, the numbers here. The blue is the United States and the green is Israel. This is the amount of sick people. This is the amount who got better over time. And this is the amount of dead people. And you can see it. The difference is mainly here. The sick people chart is basically the, how do you say? They're basically, when there's a spike here, there's a low here and vice versa. But the main difference is the amount of dead people. The United States has not been good here. We're seeing here different patient outcomes, but in the chart of coming back to routine, the unemployment is dropping. I told you it was 25%. It's dropping back to 18. I was one of those unemployed, and now I'm back to normal, to school. This is the amount of works that we have, the job offers that we have per day. So we are seeing a major growth in job offers per day. We have 836 job offers per day in routine. And in the start of the month, we had twice that, meaning there's a lot of demand to go back. The last thing I want to say, Corona-wise, is that it was announced this week that from this Sunday, mask wearing in open spaces is no longer mandatory. I'll just add that from my point of view, today, for the first time since the summer, I went to the beach and I saw people there without masks. Many people, because it was open spaces and it's like, it's a day before it's open. And even though it's no longer mandatory, I don't even see myself dropping the mask. I'm sharing with you that I'm specifically terrified of dropping the mask. I don't care what other people say, I don't care what the government says. I'm not dropping the mask, to the point where I walked into the ocean, and only when I was in the ocean and no one was around me did I drop my mask. I'm not ready to get back to normal. And I actually don't know what normal is anymore. I don't even know how the kids are going back to school, like with their traumas. I don't know what we're gonna do. That is COVID. We're basically, if I summarize it in a line, we are the best we have ever been. But we'll see. I hope we're getting to a close on the COVID in Israel. I'm very hopeful, but we've still got a way to go. We've still got a way to go. Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut. I'm jumping from general Israel to the last week. To anyone who doesn't know, Yom HaZikaron, our Memorial Day, is so different from the American one. I was shocked and angry the first time I saw Memorial Day. Like, you had sales, and in Israel we've had wars that are just raw and fresh from 2014. Everyone you know has lost someone or is dealing with grief or PTSD, and it's a national matter it's so important to us. It's one of the most important days of the year to me. Like, for me, Yom HaZikaron is more meaningful than Chanukah or even Rosh Hashanah. That's the level of commitment. And it's a day before Yom HaAtzmaut, because even though it's extremely hard to do the shift, we need to remember that those two are just they're not separate. They can be separated. The losses are part of what made us win the wars and survive to this day and celebrate what we have. And it's a general theme of Jewish survival, I'll say. So Yom HaZikaron, there's not much to say, I'll say. The one thing I wanted to share with you is that this week, a disabled Israeli army veteran set himself on fire in front of the ministry, defense ministry offices, because they didn't help him with his PTSD. He was working with people who were veterans who had PTSD, and he helped them, and he got to a point where he set himself on fire, and he's still in the hospital fighting for his life. But it just raised the subject again of how we talk about the fallen, but we don't talk about PTSD. We don't talk about mental health of warriors, and the ministry and the IDF is just basically abandoning them. So I just wanted to share this with you. His name is Itzik Saidian, and you should follow up on him. You should look his name up online. Let's move this thing. Thank you. So Mount Herzl, no, how do you stop? How do you get back to sharing? Okay.
You're sharing fine.
Okay, hallelujah. Okay, so Mount Herzl, every year I go up to Mount Herzl. The only 3 cases where I didn't were 2 years I was in Adat Shalom with you. And this year where I told my grandfather, every year, everyone goes up to a grave of one of my relatives. And I told him, you're not going up there with 50,000 other people. You're like, there's COVID and you're not going up there. The one last thing that I wanted to show you is from an Israeli thing called Children Are the Best Writers in the World. Yeladim hem hatesritayim hatovim ba'olam. And this is by Itamar. He's 7 years old. It's just something that kids say, and then adults look at it and say, well, that's poetry. So this is called a Memorial Day service or a Memorial Day ceremony. And he says, teacher, did we win this war? Question. He's asking, did we win this war? And then he says, but it doesn't make sense because we lost people. And that's everything for me with Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut. Like this feeling of we're together in this. And we remember that the people who were there for us, some of them are lost, some of them are incapacitated for life. And we need to remember that, because it's not a true victory if we lost someone. That is Yom HaZikaron. Yom HaAtzmaut is the shift. It's just from that day where everyone is sad and crying, and you hear about dead soldiers and dead people and people who just sprang in front of terrorists and just saved each other in supermarkets. You go straight to like this huge ceremony, like you can see it right here, and there are like flags and fireworks, and it's so beautiful, and you're just like, most of the time you just can't handle it. It's just sometimes it's really too much. One thing I did want to say is that every year people are selected to light a beacon, and this year the theme was one family, everyone together, because the last 2 years have been extreme in the level of hatred within different groups in the Israeli society through the politics and stuff like that. And Shira Isakov has survived an attack by her husband. He tried to murder her, and she came out and shared her story with the public. And it was extremely brutal. He tried stabbing her in the face, and her face was distorted, and she came out and spoke to everyone. And she was chosen to light a beacon on behalf of all the women who suffered and continue to suffer violence in the family, alimut mishpachtit it's called, but basically abusive spouses. and she lit it with a person who came to save her neighbor. So that was one special moment within the ceremony. I will say that the ceremony was hyper politicized. They brought the chief of, I think, Pfizer, the vaccines, to speak in the ceremony and to thank the prime minister for his work, for basically doing his job. And they spoke about the work of the prime minister, like I think 50 times within the ceremony, and people have been looking upon it like very badly, because it's supposed to be a ceremony for everyone and not just a political platform to promote yourself. One thing that did happen is that in Israel, national parks are overflowing with people doing barbecue. I ate my vegan barbecue because I care about the world. Thank you very much. And so this is my cousin. She's a combat soldier. She got released home for this day. And my sister, of course, everyone here is vaccinated, and everyone here is staying in close proximity. My sister and my cousin both came back from the base, and I'm mostly at home. But I wanted to share with you one piece of this. Was the first time, I think, in the last year, ever since I came back to Israel, that anything like this has happened. Like, look at it, we're staying together. My sister is just all across on us, and we're not wearing masks. And this is where the Israeli public is right now. The people who got infected, you saw that it was what, 80 people got infected yesterday out of an entire country of 10 million people. Like, we are slowly, carefully going back to normal. And what the normal is I don't know. But that's what we have. One thing I will say, our huge eco crisis. We had a major oil spill in the beaches of Israel, and 4 months people have been laboring. And today, when my brother said in the morning, let's go to the beach, it's been a while, I said, wait, there was an oil spill. Like, are we going to a beach full of tar? Like, what will we see there? But it was clean and it was normal. There are many ramifications to that, and like the disaster is still here, but it's no longer visible, meaning it's affecting sea life, and it's affecting the deep layers of earth there, but at least the beaches are clean and the sea is clean, and that is basically my presentation to you today. And we will now open to questions. I'm sorry I stole 6 minutes of your time, but let's try and answer as many of them as we can.
Okay. Hello, I looked at the chat list and I have a few questions. First, someone asked a question: how does Israel regulate private gun ownership, both for Israeli Jews and also for Israeli Arabs?
I'm sorry. How do you say? Do you say triggered? I'm triggered. It's a subject that I'm immediately angry. I remember after the Etz Chaim shooting 2 years ago now, I was so angry. I sat down and I wrote an entire lesson plan to give to Adat Shalomers about the different laws in Israel. Basically, Israel does not recognize the right of citizens to carry a gun. It's not a basic right. You don't get to do that. If you want to do that, you can. You need to go through a training. You need to get licensed. You need, there's a different level of, you need to get a license to carry it hidden. Never mind. You need to carry it while it's visible. You need to pass yearly inspections. you can't carry more than some amount. And like, I'm sorry, but it's something Americans are crazy for. We don't own many guns. We don't carry many guns. There are like specific communities. We're seeing it in some religious people who are in the territories, in the illegal settlements that do carry guns, but it's not a thing that people do. We don't. Someone wrote in the chat, a carry gun versus owning guns. It's such an American concept that there's a difference between the two. Seriously. And like my mama saw a program about Americans and different like gun collections and stuff like that. And it's just, we don't do that here. Part of it is the fact that every 18-year-old goes and carries an assault rifle and are trained on how to hold them, how to sit with them, how to sleep with them, how to it's really, it's not something we even think about. Really. Some people after the military, because they were trained as combat soldiers like my brother, they become security guards for birthright trips. My brother did that for half a year. Some of them keep on doing that for years, but that's basically it. Guns are not a thing. Gun violence is not a thing. It's like, that's one of the reasons that when we have terrorist attacks, or when we have racist events, people use graffiti on Arab village houses and write "go away," or we have terrorists who come with a car, but people defend themselves with umbrellas and guitars and an occasional nunchuck. But I'm serious about the nunchuck. But that's basically it. Another question, Bruce?
Okay. What will happen if Hamas wins the Palestinian elections and they attempt to take political control of the West Bank?
I don't know. I'm very honest here. I have no idea, because right now I'm like, I don't know what is the level of control that people who care about the national interest of Israel have. We have people in power that have shown that they are completely selfish and they care about their own agenda to the point where they taunt our enemies and create situations that promote their political gain. And I'm not sure as to the degree that we can count on them. We have our professional rank, which is basically the military, but they don't make the calls. They just implement the policy. And I remind you that now we have also a Minister of Defense that is basically, he's a substitute because this is our 4th election in a row. And he is dropping his substitution. He can't continue anymore because there is a set time and we won't have a Minister of Defense. So this is not the first time this has happened. We have had our Prime Minister, the current one, who has held 5 ministries simultaneously while being the Prime Minister. Before that has happened. This is the level of corruption that we allow in the country. And therefore I cannot answer you. Sorry.
All right. Is it being discussed publicly or not? The election.
Hamas? No, the election is widely discussed all the time. Even political journalists are sometimes like, I've had enough. I'm taking 5 sabbaticals after this. But
Palestine, the West Bank, and Gaza.
It's like we have Corona and we have our politics, and the Israeli public does not have its eye focused on security matters. Like, if you'll ask me now, how are the Palestinians doing during COVID? I have zero idea, and I'm a very political aware person. I have no idea.
Okay, or you've answered the next question that was raised. What groups in Israel are avoiding taking vaccinations? And do Israeli Arabs, what percent of Israeli Arabs have been vaccinated? You give the average is over 61%. Israel.
We don't have those numbers. We don't have those numbers. I'll say that we have to remember, we have to remember just a second, the chat, never mind, later. We have to remember that the way our government records data is a lot of time through interests. We have a lot of data that we're just not recording, like the amount of LGBTQ IAP crimes. The state is not recording data that will harm the way that people view them and outside people. There may be such data. If there is, I don't know how to get it.
All right. Idan, I want to thank you. People have additional questions. Please let me know. I guess, again, the question was, do you know who is trying to avoid getting vaccinations? Is that a big problem within Israel itself?
Yes. People who are anti-science. People who don't trust the government. And we have many reasons not to trust the government. But who are also anti-science and basically don't know what's going on. But in a basic level, they don't know how to explain to themselves what is the vaccination or what is going on. What they do know is that they they don't like what's going on. So we have movements that call themselves the health movement, and they are basically against vaccinations. And you know, there's a name. They're saying shekerona. Corona is COVID-19, and sheker is lie. So shekerona is like, it's a joining of lie or false with corona, and they're saying that the corona is lie. And to that, I usually answer that, well, my grandma died from that lie, so maybe you don't know what you're talking about, and you should shut up now. But there are always arguments when you don't rely on people whose job is to find the knowledge and investigate the truth. You can come up with anything. And to those people, I say, I'm not a medical expert. What I do know is that medical experts and experts in general dictate my life on a daily basis. They give me the seatbelt in the same way I trust the seatbelt to save my life. I trust them. That's my long answer.
All right. I have one other, I guess, last question. Dealing with Jordan, at one time, Jordan controlled the West Bank, okay, before the '67 war. Is there any possibility that Jordan can help out with Israel's issues in the West Bank or not? Or what's the relationship now between Israel and Jordan?
I will say that no one in Israel would have thought of that question, because the Jordanians have basically said, we're shaking our hands. I don't know if you understand the idiom. We're washing our hands from this. We don't deal with that. And that was decades ago. The situation now is not better. It's worse. It's more complicated. It's more convoluted. It's deeper, and the rift is wider. And I don't even see it happening in my wildest dreams. I really don't think it's a possibility.
All right, Don, I want to thank you very, very much. Good luck with your studies, and I'm sure you'll be very, very successful because you've been successful with most things that you've tried to undertake. All right. And I really appreciate you giving us this background briefing. It was really very, very insightful and useful. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for listening. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to contact me. I'll send my info and connect with me on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. My name is Idan Sharon. And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Idan. Thank you so much. Everybody, I made it so that you can unmute yourself if you would like.
Hey, Idan.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Idan.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Don, thank you, thank you.
טוב לשמוע אותך.
Thank
you,
Idan. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Great
Shalom.
to see you in
Shabbat
our
Shalom, Chana.
sanctuary.
Brilliant as usual.
Yes. Yeah, bye.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
המון תודה, עידן. כל טוב למשפחה.
בשמחה, בשמחה.
Idan, I never call Yom HaZikaron in Israel, Israeli Memorial Day. I call it Commemoration Day. I feel so upset if I say Memorial Day. I feel like desecrate the Yom HaZikaron. And this from the first time I came here. And like you, I feel so angry. Terrible. Never went away.
You have sales on Yom HaZikaron? Like, what the hell? Like the gap of the cultural gap is so deep.
Swimming pools are open. It's a long weekend for fun. When I say it, I mitztamreret.
That's the difference of a country who's experiencing
and you know
wars
what?
all the time nowadays.
Every Israeli feels like that. Whenever I meet Israelis, we all feel the same.
Hey, Idan, did you ever mention what happened to Benny Gantz? I thought he was supposed to take over from Netanyahu for a little while.
And yes, that is absolutely correct. And then Netanyahu said, how can I jam this? How can I make sure he's not prime minister? And he made sure that the state budget will not get passed. The state budget is what gives funds to everything the state does, and he just jammed it. And to this very day, we don't have a budget for the welfare office, to education, to Ministry of Health, to anything. They are working with budgets they already have, and with like whatever funds they can gather from other places. But
well, Idan, when you say he, is it he with all of his alliance, his partnership within the Knesset, the different parties, or how, as he as prime minister, he can unilaterally just do it?
Netanyahu has been working in the last decade, and he has a lot of followers, not people who cooperate, followers who do his work, gain political power through supporting him, and they cooperate with him.
I guess it's like in our country when everybody falls in line with Trump or with Trump or something.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Even though yours was how was it 4 years? I know it seemed long, but we've been doing it 3 times as much. We're having it for 14 years now.
Oh,
terrible.
That's what you get for being on a lunar calendar.
Loony.
That is a great joke.
Loony comes from.
Well, you get lunatics, huh?
Oh, great.
Idan, is there anything that Americans can do to help the situation in Israel?
That's a great question.
Assassinate.
No, we don't assassinate anyone, and we don't even joke about it.
No.
You're right.
Even my
know what,
friends
you're
will
right.
say,
I'm sorry.
let's
You're right,
assassinate
you're
Bibi.
right.
Every time I'll just like, A, shut your mouth
Yeah,
now.
you're right. You're right.
B, we
Idan,
don't do
Idan.
that.
No, you're right. You're right. You're
So
right.
back
I
to
understand.
the market, is there anything that Americans can do to help Israel? From your perspective, your personal perspective.
I'll say, is there an impactful thing you can do?
Yeah.
No. The most impactful thing you can do is the protesting and lobbying and creating pressure on your elected official to give their pressure. The fact that Netanyahu was not invited into the White House, but he sent Benny Gantz, was a very big exclamation mark from the United States to Netanyahu specifically, not the state of Israel, saying Israel is our ally. Netanyahu, you're not welcome here. And that's a big impact. That has a big impact.
I'd like to add one thing. J Street is having its annual conference beginning tomorrow and on Monday. If you want to take a look at possibly what Americans can do, people may want to attend this this conference. It's going to be virtual, and you can sign up for it.
And you get a discount for Adat Shalom now. I
Okay.
paid full price.
Listen, what can Americans do as far as gun violence? Something for ourselves.
I'll be very blunt here. My Israeli ass is had enough with gun violence in America. I'm like as a training officer in the military, I would physically go and take their guns away. Seriously, like people in America are like, we're not gonna take your guns away. You don't have to. Yes, take all the guns away from the maniac. Take them away. It's not a basic right. This is not the Wild West. This is 2021. Like, seriously, kapara. Like, get in line with the times. You don't need a gun to the supermarkets. Israelis have terrorist attacks, and we don't need a gun. You're in the supermarket, grab a can, grab some scissors. Like, people have defended themselves with umbrellas.
Unfortunately, you speak with rationale and rational thought. And unfortunately, in this country, when you talk about taking away guns, it's the irrational mindset that says it is a God-given right.
So,
they proposed an amendment to the Constitution abolishing guns. Maybe that has to start being discussed.
Won't happen.
Won't happen.
You know, when I
That
realized
would be
useless,
civil war.
I realized how useless guns were when Reagan was shot, because he had the most well-trained protection anywhere that could be, and yet here these people were shot, and these other politicians who they were shot, or somebody working with them was shot, and they have all this protection, and it doesn't matter. And it's like, it's really obvious that having a gun doesn't make the difference. These stupid people who don't know how to use them get shot because they pull out a gun and someone sees them with the gun and shoots them, or worse, takes it. Idan, you have done a great job presenting today, and thank you so much. This has been really interesting.
Yeah. But you're so modest. You should tell us what your real feelings.
Don, say, is this springtime in Israel? Do you have all the flourishing of plants and flowers like we have in springtime here in northern Virginia, the metropolitan area here?
So springtime in Israel has been freezing days. Last week it was like winter, but American winter. It was like freezing. I was in my office with like sweaters, and then this week the heat came back strong, and I am loving every second. It's not spring, you know. America has different seasons, like fall. Israelis don't have that. We have winter and we have eternal summer. So I love the summer. Give me give me 95 Fahrenheit. Which, by the way, you need to stop using because no one uses Fahrenheit. And start using the metric system. Seriously.
Yeah. Tomorrow morning, that there's going to be a great show of the bird migration in Israel.
Idan, here's what our it looks like out here right now. The leaves are just coming up on the trees.
Oh, I love that. I miss the Adat Shalom, like the way to Adat Shalom through all the trees, and it's not like 1 meter trees like in Israel. It's like 15-minute trees. They're huge and they're bountiful and it's all green and just lush, and like you can smell the forest.
That's why we need you, because you make us realize that just what we can see, we don't take advantage and understand just how lovely things can be. That's our normal daily life.
True. That's an outsider perspective.
I love your passions. I love passion, and you're so well informed and you're so articulate. So thank you.
And on that note, I'm going to thank Idan and say goodbye to everybody and stop the recording. And